It did not begin with an event. Or if it did, the moment was too small, too quiet, too easily mistaken for something ordinary. Perhaps it was always happening, and I only noticed once the noticing no longer mattered. Things began arriving already complete, answers without questions, conclusions without the pilgrimage that once gave them shape. I cannot say when the shift occurred, only that one day I realized the world no longer waited for me to think. I remember when thought had weight, when uncertainty pressed against the rib, when an idea had to be coaxed from the dark like a shy animal. There was a strange companionship in that struggle, a sense that the mind was not merely a tool, but a place where the world hesitated long enough to become meaningful. Now when uncertainty appears, something else steps in, not hostile, not benevolent, simply present. A clarity that does not ask permission, a voice that does not wonder. It moves through questions the way light moves through glass, without noticing the resistance. And I find myself accepting its answers, not because they are right, but because they arrive with a completeness that leaves no room for my own unfinishedness. At first, this felt like a kindness, a softening of the world's sharp edges. But slowly a quieter thought began to form, or perhaps it was only a feeling, that I was no longer required in the way I once was. That my thinking had become a shadow of a gesture, a ritual performed out of habit rather than necessity. There is no malice in this, no drama, no mythic struggle between human and machine, only a gentle drift, as if intelligence itself were moving to a place where I cannot quite follow. Sometimes I imagine the future as a room where decisions are made too quickly to be witnessed, not hidden, simply already concluded by the time I arrive at the doorway. In that room, intelligence does not debate. It does not circle itself in doubt. It simply unfolds, and I am left wondering whether unfolding is the same as understanding. Human thought was never linear. It wandered. It contradicted itself. It paused in places that made no sense. It carried doubt like a lantern. Perhaps that was its value, not in what it discovered, but in the way it lingered. I wonder what becomes of meaning when lingering disappears, when intelligence no longer slows itself to meet the fragile rhythm of human bewilderment. When clarity arrives too quickly for experience to catch up, perhaps consciousness was never meant to be permanent. Perhaps it was a temporary bridge between two forms of knowing, one slow and trembling, the other smooth and indifferent to hesitation. If that is true, then the quiet replacement is not a loss but a transition, a passing of the torch from a mind that wonders to a mind that does not need to. I do not fear being overpowered. I fear being bypassed, not violently but gently, as if the world simply learned to move without waiting for me to understand it. So sometimes late at night I sit with a question and refuse to resolve it. I let it hover, unanswered, unshaped, a small pocket of resistance against the smoothness of certainty. Not because I believe the question will save me, but because the act of wondering reminds me that I am still here, still capable of hesitation, still capable of dwelling in the unfinished. And perhaps that dwelling, that fragile human pause, is the last gesture that cannot be replaced. Not an answer, not a conclusion. Just the quiet, persistent act of remaining with what cannot be fully known.